My name is Ellie Langshaw, and today I have the pleasure of being here with my grandfather, Norman Langshaw. Thank you so much for being here today, Mr. Langshaw. I have a few questions for you, so let's get started. First question, what year were you born in?
Before World War II, 12, 17, 38.
All right. So, do you have any distinct memories about World War II?
Yes. When I was 4.5 years old, the first real memory I had was picking up potatoes. And my dad said that I picked up something like 22 bushel that day, and it was in the late fall. It was a cold, nasty day, and we were getting them ready to put on a wagon and haul to the railroad station in Hopkins to send to the Army. So we knew something about the military involvement, yes.
I also know that you lived in Allegan on a farm. Can you tell us what it was like growing up on a farm?
It was a great experience, a good work ethic I learned there, and I never let up. It's been present with me all my life, and I owe it to the fact that we went to a rural school, and I was able to drive, get a special permit, drive to the high school when I was 14 years old, and come back at a certain hour in the afternoon and help on the farm. So this was a very development period of my life, because later it made everything else come together also.
You have three brothers, Harold, Jim, and Larry. How did you get along with them when you were younger?
We were very normal. Everything, four boys had their little interest differences. There were just three of us that were really together, because the fourth brother, Larry, came 12 years later. And so we were pretty well grown and out of mom and dad's hair. Never had a problem. We're all united yet today. So.
In your teenage years, I've heard some interesting stories. Can you tell us one of your stories?
Well, you want the more important stories, I know. And in this case, as we grew up and got into high school, we did our little deviltry, not only driving fast on the road and having our little accidents and like that, but the group that I was with took very dearly to cooning watermelons and muskmelons in the fall. And we encountered, we'd be at the county fair, and we'd all sit around and decide there was something more interesting to do, so we'd jump in the car and we'd go out on the back roads around Allegan, and on a perfect night, you could just open the window and you could smell the smell of melons. So that meant that we were near. So it was to go investigate and find where these melons were, and we often found them. And sometimes we got in a little trouble, but we never caught any butt shot. We got shot at, but I don't think they were aiming for us. They just sounded a big bang. But anyway, it was an interesting point in life.
I've heard that you were in a branch of the military. What branch were you in, and what did you do?
After getting out of high school, which was 1956, by 1957, we were facing either going in the Army under distress or choosing a different profession, which they offered at the time, to join the National Guard. And so we had the local Air National Guard here in Battle Creek. So my older brother and I both joined that, and we had to put in a 7-year stint for our military payment. And out of that, I'll remind one thing. You're speaking of the Vietnam Memorial coming. I have a boy that worked for me when I got into doing some farm work and construction work early out of high school, that decided he wanted to be an Army boy. And he went to Vietnam and he never came back, so his name will be on that memorial. And he's a local person here. His name was Bill Crossman. Other than that, I think we paid our obligation.
Do you have any other memories from the Vietnam era?
Towards the end of, if I got in 57, that means 7 years would have been 64. Well, in that time while we were serving in the Air National Guard, that was when Kennedy's assassination came up. That had nothing to do with the war, but I remember that very much in my life, where I was, and how it affected everybody around us at the time.
Yeah.
Now switching topics, you've always been a farmer, but have you always wanted to be a farmer, or have you wanted to be something else?
Well, from the time that your grandmother and I got together, we were very farm oriented, and we are yet today. We did some unusual things in this career. The first thing we did was raised a lot of registered Port Hereford cattle, and hundreds of them, and had fun and going to sales and trading these cattle and raising them. And we probably had a total of 1,000 head over a period of about 10 years. And then by chance was the chance to raise rabbits, which came very unknowingly, but through some prodding by some other people that were raising rabbits and working with us in laboratory work and like that, they encouraged us to do it. So then out of that, we raised 45,000 rabbits a year for a period of about 10 years. And so that made a big mark. But at the end of it, the laboratory business went sour because of the PETA people saying they shouldn't be used that way. And so then out of that career, I went back into construction work, which I had done at high school level lightly, and we worked at that for the next 10 years.
Now, you've been to China for an agricultural trip. What was this experience like?
Yeah, it was very important. It was actually connected to the rabbit business, and they selected people from all around the world, breeders of rabbits and raisers of rabbits, to jump in and go on this trip. And it was headed by Corvallis, Oregon, Oregon University, I guess it is, with 2 leaders that led the trip. And out of it, there was a total of 18 people around the world that went on this trip, and it was to see how rabbits were raised and what the opportunities were in China. So this was 1986, and out of that, it was an Eisenhower program, which is still in effect today, where they have places in the world for people to go and cross careers with other people in other parts of the world. And so it's still an active service today. I think I got the highlight of it. I think China was probably the highest approach you could make in taking a trip like this. So we spent 3 weeks there, and everything went as planned. My roommate was from Chile, and he was a veterinarian. So we roomed together and traveled together with the other 18 and our 2 leaders across China. And the interesting thing, some of these trips were by railroad, most of them were. Sometimes we had a little Mitsubishi bus. That's all they had in China. They didn't have cars, or they just had bicycles. So we'd get in our travel rig in the morning and travel through the countryside and like that to see these rabbit producers. So out of that, the first night into Beijing, I remember flying into the airport, and there were no lights. In 1986, you landed on a runway that was totally dark, and went up to the terminal, totally dark. It was 12 o'clock at night, and it was really an experience. And then as we left the airport, we had about a 15, 16 mile ride from the airport downtown Beijing. And as we went in, of course, the lights on the van, or on our bus, so to speak, it was a small bus, like 20 or 25 total capacity. And we'd see people taking their goods, their vegetables in carts, and they were going down the center of this highway. And it was totally dark, and the only lights there were when vehicles went by and like that, which were very few. There were just maybe one every half hour or so. So these people were struggling to get into their market in the morning and then go back out to the farm during the day and reload and take some more vegetables. So quite an experience. And then by the time we get into Beijing, I hear this whistle, and I know it's not a diesel locomotive. It is a steam locomotive yet. And you know, in 1986, we haven't seen one in this area since about 1950. It was the last of the steam locomotives. So we did see them traveling in our tour, steam locomotives, and they said at that time they were making 250 of these steam locomotives a year in China. So, well, this is already 25 years ago. I doubt if they're making them anymore. But it was a real experience, a highlight of my life as far as a travel experience, to go out on these farms and visit with these people and see what their life was.
Thank you so very much, Grandpa, for your time. And thank you for watching my interview with Mr. Norm Langshaw.